Welcome into the OBR streaming network. This is the Dog House. My name is Brad Ward, filling in for Michael Keefe tonight as we get you ready for Monday Night Football with the Denver Broncos. It's a weird week. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you out there, as it's a chaotic week, of course. Weird week for football scheduling, especially with the Browns coming off their epic Thursday night win in the Snow Bowl, and then heading into the holiday, and then Monday Night Football against a Broncos team that is an interesting team, right? So they were 5-5. They've won 2 in a row. They beat the Falcons and the Raiders to get to 7-5. So they're kind of sitting in a good spot. Now we will have Benjamin Allbright on. He's actually a Broncos insider for KOA Colorado. And he hosts a show called Broncos Country Tonight, and talks all things Broncos. We have him on for a couple minutes to talk about the matchup and what to expect. This is a Broncos team with a very good defense. They have, in my opinion, overachieved with the drafting of Bo Nix at 12th overall. And Bo Nix has been good for Sean Payton. 16 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He was his completion percentage at 64.9. He's at about 2,500 yards. Out of those interceptions he's thrown, the 6 of them, they've all come in losses, which is interesting. And they all have been thrown when they are trailing or tied at least. And none of them have been thrown inside their own 20. So if you're going to throw them right, don't throw them inside your own end. And give up that field position. What's up to you guys filing into the chat for the Doghouse, getting you ready for this week's matchup with the Browns. Lots going on with the Browns, right? Big win, got them on the national spotlight Thursday night. The snow game certainly shined a light on the team and their wins. Or their win against the Steelers, who they will get right after this game, twice in 3 weeks. A little bit of a schedule quirk there. Never great to get 2 teams a matchup twice in 3 weeks, but that's what the Browns draw with the Steelers. So, all the Steelers fans that are angry and upset said 2 weeks. We'll see what the weather looks like on that night in Pittsburgh, but that has been a tough place for the Browns to get a win, as has Denver. So both places have been tough. So tough back-to-back matchups here. Nix has been good for them. He wasn't the guy that everybody wanted to go get, but he is exactly what Sean Payton wanted. They have a very balanced offensive approach. They will run the ball with Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, and of course their rookie Audric Estime. They have Cortland Sutton, who's having a nice season. Marvin Mims has worked his way out of the doghouse. Troy Franklin, little Jordan Humphrey, and Devon Valet, little Jordan Humphrey, coming over from the Saints to be with their coach now, Sean Payton. George Payton, their GM, has done a nice job drafting some players, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that are getting extended. And it will be a tough matchup, no doubt. But before we get any further, make sure you hit like and subscribe. Pardon me. Like and subscribe to the OBR streaming network. Browns, yeah, a little Thursday night tradition is right, James. They absolutely have. They got flexed out of Thursday night against the Bengals, unfortunately, because they've been doing well there. For sure. Hit like and subscribe for the OBR streaming network. Make sure you hit the notification bell too, so you know every time we go live. The schedule the rest of the week will be the React tomorrow night. Me and Pete, as usual. That'll be epic, and we will discuss all the things that the national folks were talking about and the local folks talking about coming out of that Pittsburgh game. A lot of talk about Jameis. Wrote an article about Jameis today at the OBR. Go check that out, and what the Browns' options might be at quarterback. Otherwise, I hear a lot of Browns, he could price, Jameis could play so well on the stretch that he could price himself out of it. Browns will find a way to keep who they want, the quarterback they want. We know how they structure contracts. They can, put void years on it, signing bonuses. If they want to keep Jameis here, they can pay him. If they want to go after somebody else, they can pay him, despite having to keep Deshaun Watson on the roster. Before Thursday night, the three reports came out. You had the report from Breer, Rappaport, and Schefter, all kind of alluding to the fact that Barry and Stefanski would be safe. That angers some of you, surely. Some of you, that makes happy. Either way, from that point, Breer went on to say they would be approaching Watson differently this offseason. Not going to build around him, not going to build him up, going to bring in competition. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. I can't imagine. To me, that's their way of saying we're not going to play. He's not the guy anymore. Competition for Watson, we don't know when he's going to be healthy. If he is healthy, I find it almost unfathomable at this point that he play for the Browns again. They played him too long this year. They wasted what could have been very valuable weeks of this season. And it's tough, right? To look back at those games, see how winnable they potentially were, and that they were tossed away by running four out there, who just wasn't very good. And for whatever reason, mentally not processing the field, unable to, as athleticism has diminished, and now with this injury, that will be the case even further. So that's where we are. So the whole competition thing, take it for what it's worth. For me, that's kind of like signaling, hey, they're going to look in another direction. As you remember, Andrew Berry was very non-committal in his to Deshaun for the first time ever in his bye week press conference. But without any further ado, let's talk about this game. Browns going to altitude to face the Broncos, place where they've always had a tough time, mile high, and they will get a 7-5 Broncos team who are coming off a win against the Raiders. The first time they beat the Raiders twice in the same season in 10 years, since 2014. And to talk more about this is Broncos Insider, Ben Allbright. Follow him on Twitter at Allbright NFL, host and reporter of for the KOA Colorado, and host of the Broncos Country Tonight Show. Yeah, he's great. He's fantastic. Covers the entire NFL, and took a little time out to talk about this one with us. Enjoy. We are honored to welcome to the show tonight Benjamin Allbright. He is a Broncos Insider for KOA Colorado, the host of the Broncos Country Tonight Show. And you can catch that show at broncoscountrytonight.com. What's going on, Ben? How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. It's it's a Thanksgiving week, and then we got Monday Night Football following that up, so we get some treats and then a treat to cap the week off.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Weird week, though. Weird week for football, schedule-wise. I want to jump right in with you, though, and just talk about Bo Nix real quick. Outstanding rookie season so far, 16 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Crazy eyes, Bo Nix, after this week with that awesome picture of him. But going back to the draft, Ben, I wanted to ask you as an insider, was this always the plan for Sean Payton? Did he identify, in your opinion, that Nix was the guy and that's who they wanted from like early in the process?
Oh yeah, very very early in the process. There were several quarterbacks that intrigued them, but in the end, that was kind of the guy. Jaden Daniels, I think, was number one on their board, and then Caleb Williams number two. But they they didn't figure they'd have a chance to get it either one of those guys. They floated some fake rumors about trading Surtain, trading up. None of that was ever going to happen. But the Bo Nix thing, pretty early in the process, they had him in that top tier. We can go back and look. I've got some tweets from like last November and December about it, and then January, February, March as well. As well as the day of, I always do that. I always do some kind of cryptogram and told everybody it was Bo Nix. But yeah, that was, they were sold, they were done. By the time they had the workout with him up in Oregon, he was the guy. It was just a question of, how they were going to do it. And so they decided to stay put and figured he would fall in their lap, and it worked out.
Yeah, it did. It's just fit for Sean Payton, just all around fit. What he wanted to do offensively. Is that the thing with Nix? Is that why it's been so successful, in your opinion?
I think that's a part of it. I think part of it is the fact that Bo knows how to deal with Sean Payton in terms of, interpersonal relationships. I think that Bo is a guy who's very, very high football IQ, doesn't take a lot of negative plays. He just doesn't get sacked. He gets the ball out quick. One way or another, he's getting rid of it. He's not taking negative plays, and that's a big part of it. Sean Payton's offense, it's very schedule based, and so if you're taking negative plays, it throws the whole thing off. We saw that last year with Russell Wilson. Russ was just a bad match for that. I mean, Russ. There's a lot of people that think Russell Wilson is washed and all this kind of stuff. I disagree with that sentiment, but I will say that Russ was not a fit for Sean Payton, and that was never going to work. And ultimately they moved on. Bo, I think he just knows how to deal with Sean Payton, where Russ is kind of like, I don't want to say meek, but sort of in a sense. If you yell at him, he's just going to sit there and take it. Bo will push back. He's got a fiery personality. He'll light you back up, and we've seen that this year actually on the sideline. So I think it's a combination of things. I don't think it's any one thing. I think that it's several different things that make it a good fit, and it's worked out. Looks like it's working out now.
Yeah. Two questions on that. Are you surprised? You said that you didn't think he was washed about Russ. Are you surprised that he's had the success he's had in Pittsburgh?
No, not at all. I mean, you go back and you look at the tape last year. While everybody was dogging Russ, the reality was he was top 5 in the NFL. I think third in passing touchdowns when he got benched. The Broncos were the number 1 scoring team in the fourth quarter of games because they would finally get off the Sean Payton stuff and just let Russ do his thing, and he would lead them back. He led the league in game-winning drives, fourth quarter comebacks at the point where he was benched. I think Geno passed him in the 2 weeks he was benched, but at the time he led the league in game-winning drives, fourth quarter comebacks, was top 3, top 4 in passing touchdowns. It doesn't surprise me at all. The only people I think that are surprised by it are people who don't understand what Russell Wilson was in Seattle. And how bad Nate Hackett was as a head coach for the Broncos.
Sure, that makes sense. Are you surprised how good Bo Nix has been as a rookie?
Maybe. I thought he would take a little bit longer to get there. I mean, the first 4 weeks were pretty bad. He's gotten better. There's still some things to iron out. The numbers don't tell the whole story. You know, he's had quite a few turnover worthy plays that haven't turned into turnovers. So that's, you know, that's one thing to keep your eye on. I think he's really good at picking apart zone defenses, and teams continue to play zone against him. But he's not very good against man coverage, and that's sort of been his Achilles heel thus far. We'll see how much he's able to grow beyond that. I don't think I expected him to grow as fast as he has. That said, I mean, old for a rookie at 24 years old. So you hope that he would have an accelerated learning curve.
Yeah, played a lot of football too. That's the key there, right? You guys cut or waived Greg Dulcich this week. Is that a fit issue more than anything? What an interesting move there. Is that just not what you guys thought it was going to, or they thought it was going to be as far as fit at that position?
Well, I mean, yeah, kind of. I mean, Greg Dulcich was drafted by Nate Hackett to be an off the line Y, a flexed out off the line Y, and Sean Payton needs inline tight ends. He needs guys that can play in line, and Greg Dulcich is just not that. You couple that with the injury history, and then he got out there at the beginning of the season and was in his own head. He had a couple of drops, and he just got in the doghouse and couldn't get his way out. And so I think a fresh start is best for him. Because he's a guy I think that could have success as sort of a second tight end, an athletic second tight end, an off the line wide type guy. But he's not a guy that brings the complete package to the table. If you're expecting blocking out of him, I mean, really, he's more of a big body receiver than he is a tight end.
Yeah. That makes sense. The Broncos defense has been tremendous. So Nick Bonito, 10 sacks, Zach Allen, bringing the pressure, and, Vance Joseph, of course, finding ways to get these guys one-on-ones. Tough matchup for the Browns offensive line this week. They've been injured all season long. Jermaine Ifedi on the left at the left tackle. Big circle highlight around that area for Monday night. What do you see as that? It looks like a big advantage for the Broncos, and you expect them to try to exploit that on Monday.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what they do. That's what this defense does. It's not like the defense that you've seen the last few years, ever since what Vic Fangio was hired, when they switched to kind of that tight front quarters match, type stuff, or C6 coverages. It's not that at all. It's back to being what Vance Joseph ran, who got what he does from Wade Phillips, and they get after the quarterback. They blitz a lot. You're going to see a rotation from the ends. You'll see Nick Bonito, John Cooper, Jonah Ellis, maybe even Andre Tillman a little bit, but you mostly see those three guys rotating through on the edge. Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers up front with DJ Jones at the nose. And they love to blitz. They love to get after the quarterback. They'll put those corners on an island. And so that's the thing. They don't want to give you time for the deep developing stuff. They want to get you in 3rd and 8+ and not give you time for stuff to develop so they can get after you. Benito and Zach Allen really are kind of the strength of that defense on the front seven, on the backside. Obviously, I think everybody knows Pat Surtain. Jaquan McMillan is very good out of the slot. Riley Moss is in his second year in the league, first year as a starter. And he's been pretty good on the outside. Teams have gone after him quite a bit just because, they don't want to go after the other two. At the safety positions, you've got PJ Locke, who's, he's okay. He's a guy who's got a nose for the football and that kind of stuff, but not as good as, for instance, Justin Simmons was, or rangy as Justin Simmons was in coverage. And then you got Brandon Jones, who can do a little bit of everything. He can play the one high. He can get down in the box. He'll make hits. He'll blitz. It gets his hands on the football. He'll pick you off. He's the better safety. So you got a pretty good defense overall. I mean, this is a top 5 defense in the league. But most of what they do is predicated on pressure and it getting home. If they get the pressure home, they're going to be good. If the pressure's not getting home, those corners are on an island, and it doesn't matter who you are, eventually you're going to give up the cookies.
Nix has been fantastic about spreading the ball around. You find a lot of rookies who try to force it to their star. He hasn't done that. And in turn, Sutton has had good numbers, and everybody else is touching the ball. They've had running back by committee with 3 running backs. As that proceeds for the Broncos into the future, do you see one of those guys emerging as your bell cow, or will that always be Peyton's kind of philosophy, is to run like 3 guys like that?
Well, it's always been his philosophy. I mean, you go back, look when he was with the Saints, and you had guys like Pierre Thomas and Mark Ingram and Darren Sproles or Reggie Bush. They would rotate all these guys through, and that's his thing. And the same thing with the receivers. It's not that Bo's spreading the ball around; it's that they have so many different personnel packages. They're constantly shuffling in and out. It's just some guys are in one play, then they're off for 2 plays, and that kind of stuff. The players have complained about that a little bit, saying it's difficult to get in a rhythm, but they've kind of adjusted as the season's gone on. Cortland does mostly play the X, and I would say Devon Vele is kind of the other sort of security blanket that everybody else just kind of rotates through and gets touches. As far as the running back goes, Javonte is the lead back. I mean, he'll be in the majority of plays. Audric Estime will get some carries, McMillan will get some carries, and they'll move Marvin Mims around even into the backfield at times. And let him get a touch or two back there as well to try to take care of his explosive playmaking speed. So you'll see a rotation, though. There's not, even though Javonte will get the most snaps in terms of carries, touches, and targets, it'll be spread out.
In that wide receiver core, Mims is a guy, if correct me if I'm wrong, who was in that doghouse and kind of worked his way out, right, in Denver?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, and it's funny because he's easily the most explosive receiver they have. I mean, it's not even close. Yeah. But yeah, they just weren't using him early. They couldn't find a way to, or wouldn't find ways to get him on the field. And then over the last, 3 weeks or so, they started trying some different stuff, using him in a joker role, similar to what they used Taysom Hill down there in New Orleans, where they'll put him in the backfield at times and then in the slot, and then they'll, an orbit motion and hit him on a bump pass or a jet sweep, and then they'll run him vertically. And, so they're kind of starting to figure him out, move him around, put him in the best position for him to succeed, because he is by far the most dynamic athlete with the ball in his hands, but just does not quite get the reps that you expect somebody like with those kind of with that kind of athleticism to get.
And then Troy Franklin, rookie receiver. What do you think of him?
I mean, he's a 3-route guy right now. I understand he's like the 3rd leading receiver or whatever for the Broncos, and when you look at touchdowns and everything else, but reality is he's not on the field as much as you think. When he is on the field, I mean, he does have a connection with Bo dating back to college, both at Oregon together, but he's had a lot of drops. I mean, basically he inherited that dropsy title from Jerry Jeudy. Part of the reason Jerry was shipped out of town was because he couldn't hang on to the ball even wide open. And Troy could have double the touchdowns that he has right now if he could hang on to the football. And so, that's one of those things. They've worked him in more and more, and they're trying to get his confidence built up and all that. But he's not on the field as much as you'd think. I mean, guys like Lil Jordan Humphrey end up getting way more snaps than Troy Franklin does, even if the ball isn't coming his way as often.
Yeah, Humphrey. Was Humphrey I know he goes back to the Saints. Was he there when Peyton was there with the Saints? Is he a guy that has that connection?
If they were ever on the Saints, they were there when Sean Payton was there. We're the Saints Mountain West now.
Saints Mountain West, yeah. So their offense, the Denver's offense, scares me because the Browns, defense with Schwartz, it's a lot of man-to-man. It's a lot of this is who we are. He doesn't change a lot. He's kind of stubborn in that way, and it drives me crazy at times. And that's the tape is out on how to beat his defense, and we've seen that this year by multiple offenses. But it seems like, and we saw it even last year when Denver beat the Browns, that they sort of had the answers to this test already. So I don't know what we'll see on Monday night, if Schwartz will be bold enough to switch things up at all. You did say they had some trouble. Knicks had some trouble with man-to-man, and that's what the Browns love to run. However, it just seemed like even last year, to go back to see the way that Peyton had kind of them figured out last year, I would expect more of the same on Monday night.
Well, last year the Broncos ran the trap game, and that was what took that defensive line out of their ability to get after the passer.
Exactly,
I think adding Shelby Harris, kind of helps you with that. I think I think you'd be expecting it this year, but that's what they did last year, was just they ran the trap game in the first half, and that took them out of their defensive game plan. As far as the passing stuff goes, though, yeah, it's a bad matchup for the Broncos. I mean, Bo Nix doesn't do well against man. He doesn't do well against teams that have defensive lines that can pressure, and guys like Myles Garrett. If you do that, he tends to he gets rid of the ball and doesn't take sacks, but they're inaccurate throws. And I'm a little nervous about that part of the matchup. The other side of the ball, the Broncos defense against Jameis, they're probably going to turn him over twice. Jameis will get a touchdown on because he gets a touchdown know, everybody at least, but they'll turn him over once or twice. And so that'll be the thing, is can they produce points or anything out of getting turnovers like that? And then, you know, like I said, with the other side of that, it's a bad matchup for the Broncos. At least there are offense versus your defense. I mean, it's Bo has just struggled against man, like I said, and if you pressure him, he gets rattled and he gets flustered, and he'll make some inaccurate throws, especially early in games when the nerves are still high. So just something to kind of keep your eye on in that Monday night game.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to it. It'll be a fun game. How was Jerry Jeudy's exit from Denver? Did he leave on good terms, or is it did he leave on kind of shaky terms?
I mean, the organization has no ill will for him. I think he may have ill will for them. He sat through the Pat Shurmur year where he was the fake jet sweep guy all year. You know, they just had him run motion and act like he was getting a jet sweep and just never handed it to him. You know, and then, you know, after the Pat Shurmur stuff, then you had Hackett and Peyton, and he just kept dropping the ball. I mean, he'd be wide open, just drop the ball. And so, you know, that was kind of a thing. I mean, excellent route runner, fantastic technician, and that dirty leg, that dead leg that he puts at the top of the stem when he's running routes, I mean, it's lethal. But if you can't hang on to the ball, I mean, what good does that do you? I said career rejuvenation somewhere else is probably best for him, and it appears over the last couple of weeks that's what he's gotten in Cleveland. So I think the fans are sort of happy for him that he's succeeding. There's no ill will from that side of the house. There might be ill will from him. You know, he was just problematic while he was here. I mean, like I said, you had the drops, and then of course you had the off-field stuff, and so he was just a little problematic while he was here, and it didn't work out.
Was he a malcontent? I mean, was he off-field issues in the locker room at all?
Malcontent's probably too strong. I mean, you're talking about a guy who got visibly frustrated in games if he didn't get the ball early. You know, and he would start jogging or not running routes on run plays and stuff. You'd get visibly frustrated. So there was a little bit of that, but it wasn't vocal. I mean, you'd have a tweet here or there, you know, I got my cardio in today kind of tweet, that kind of stuff. But you know, I not really. I mean, it's not as bad as some of the diva wide receivers out there. You just, you know, you kind of wished that he would produce before he would do stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like he would produce at a level where it's okay to tweet that stuff out. But if you're the guy who's dropping the ball all the time, and then you're dogging the quarterback saying, you know, I ran my cardio today, that doesn't go over too well.
Yeah, it's not great. Not a great look. You're watching the Doghouse with Ben Allbright, Broncos Insider. Just a couple more questions for you, and I'll get you out of here, Ben. How do the Browns pull off this upset? What's the biggest weakness for the Broncos? How do teams beat the Broncos when they do?
Oh, you got to make them one-dimensional. If you could turn it into a situation where they've got to throw, and you know they're going to throw, and you can get after the quarterback, you can get any kind of pressure on the quarterback. You know, it makes it tough. And Sean Payton's arrogant enough to stick with the throwing, you know, because he wants to pad the stats for his guy, which is, you know, I mean, we almost coughed up the Raiders game this past week because he threw it 3 straight incompletions at 3 minutes 30 seconds left with the ball in a 1-score lead. If it hadn't been for Minshew getting hurt the very next play and Desmond Ridder coming on, the Broncos could have let that game slip away. So, you know, it catered to Sean Payton's ego. You know, put him in situations where he lets arrogance get the best of him. You know, just the main thing is don't turn the football over. You know, if you can run on the Broncos a little bit early and don't turn it over, then you can stay in late. And if you can stay in late, anything can happen. As far as the defense, I mean, there's not a lot of susceptibility in that secondary. Mainly, if you get the right tight end going, that's really kind of your best move is to use the tight end to work the middle of the field. Because the receivers on the outside are just not going to beat guys like McMillan and Surtain. You might get one over on Moss, but he's pretty good too. It's the tight end position that's going to be key. And then running the football. You got to be effective running the football. Keep yourself ahead of the chains. If you get yourself some 3rd and long, that defense is going to tee off on you. So don't get turned over. Don't get behind the sticks. And, you know, I mean, it's basically play sound, fundamental offensive football.
Yeah. It's been a tough thing for the Browns this year. Absolutely. So we'll see if they can pull that off. One last thing here. The Broncos got to 5-5, 2 big wins in a row. Atlanta, I think it's been a long time since they beat the Raiders twice in 1 year. Did I read that somewhere?
2014.
Wow, that's about 10 years there. They beat the Raiders twice in 1 year. They get 2 wins in a row. They get to 7-5. This is a big game for them. Obviously, they're all big down the stretch now. But are you surprised at all where they are? coming off of the, hey, we got to hit on some draft picks. We got to have some young guys develop because of the dead cap and everything, the Russell Wilson thing. Basically the same thing the Browns are going to be going through here in the next couple of years. What are you surprised at where they're at this year?
Not really. I mean, they're within a game of where I thought they'd be, plus or minus. I mean, I saw this defense in training camp, and I knew what they were going to do. I think I tweeted about it, back in early August or something like that. That if they could stay healthy, this defense was gonna be annihilating people. And that's really the thing. I mean, if you've got a defense that can do that, you can afford to grow a quarterback in real time. And the Broncos have gotten lucky. I mean, you beat the Jets because Zerline missed a field goal at the end of the game. You ran up against the Tampa Bay Bucks when they were missing 6 starters. You ran up against the New Orleans Saints when they're missing their quarterback and 6 defensive starters. The Carolina Panthers or anybody, just about anybody can do it on them. Now they're getting more healthy now, but at the time they weren't healthy either. You look at the Raiders; they were missing almost their whole secondary, and so the Broncos. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Bo Nix or take anything away from what this team has done, but at the same time, they've also been very fortunate in what they've run up against has not been teams at full strength thus far.
They have. Would you consider their play style conservative and complimentary, and that's how they've won games, and not making mistakes, playing good, sound, fundamental football, kind of the opposite of like what you said the Browns can't do?
Yeah, I wouldn't call the offense conservative because Sean Payton is going to throw the ball. I mean, his ego is going to throw the ball even in situations where he shouldn't. So I wouldn't necessarily call them conservative, but I would say they do play good complementary football. Special teams have been mostly good. The defense has been lights out, and they find ways to, get at you, and they'll pick up big chunks. They're an explosive offense. I mean, they've got big chunk plays. They'll get big chunk plays on you, and so that's the thing. You let them get ahead of the chains on you, and they'll eat you up with big chunk plays. You put them behind the sticks, and that's where they falter. We're talking about getting lucky and stuff like that. I mean, like I said, the Zerline New York Jets game, I forgot the block field goal against Kansas City could have gone either way. So it's been a lot of close games with this football team that they've had mostly good luck on outside of that field goal block to get to this point.
Yeah, should have had that one for sure. That was brutal. Benjamin Allbright, fantastic work. Big fan. Broncos Insider. Listen to him on Broncos Country tonight. He is at KOA Colorado, the Broncos flagship network. He is host and reporter there, as I said, Insider. Follow him on Twitter or X at Allbright NFL. Ben, thank you so much for your time, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Take care.
Big thanks to Benjamin Allbright, KOA Colorado, for stopping by to talk about this game on Monday night. He is tremendous and knows his stuff. An excellent guest for sure. Yes, question, Chef. What do you think about the success of replay assist this year? I think it has been mostly successful. However, last night we saw an instance. Thanks, MC. Last night we saw an instance where it was blatant pass interference and replay assist they overruled. I don't know if it was replay assist. I guess it was the officials in that situation that came together and decided it wasn't pass interference. On the replay, it was clearly pass interference. If they were going to call that, they should have called it uncatchable, but they did not. And they blew that call blatantly. Yeah. The one instance I can think of where replay assist, I think, got it wrong this year that pertains to the Browns mainly is the Njoku catch on the sideline. That was a catch, and the replay assist came in and overruled. I forget what game that was. Came in and overruled that catch. Called it incomplete. Maybe the Chargers game, maybe. Anyways, called it incomplete, and then no, you had no chance to challenge it because it came from replay assist. And if you were Stefanski, you would have wanted to challenge that because it was a catch. It still looks like a catch when I look at it. So that one was one that I thought was like maybe they rushed it, but for the most part, I think replay assist, it keeps the game moving along. You get a lot of these like bad spots by a yard or two, right? And they correct them like in real time. And I think that's a good aspect of the game. Instead of somebody having to throw a challenge flag to get the ball moved back a half yard so that you get a fourth and a yard instead of first down. The replay assist is quick to correct the spot on the field. I think that is one of the instances that I've seen it used a lot, right? Like, well, there's the initial spot, and they'll be like, "Oh, it's a first down." No, wait, it's 3rd and 1, and they correct the spot in real time. And for me, you shouldn't have to, if you're a coach, use a challenge on a play like that, right? Like just because you missed a spot by a foot, and that's the difference between a first down and not. To have to use a challenge flag on a play like that seems silly. So I think the replay assist for the most part has been good. I think they've missed it a couple times. I don't know if last night, I don't actually, in retrospect, Chef, I don't think last night probably didn't come from replay assist because you can't change a penalty like pass interference on that. So I guess that probably would have been them just huddling up to change the call, but it was a bad change of the call. It was clearly interference. You could have called it uncatchable, maybe, but I still think he pretty much had his hands in his shoulder pads, slowed him down. I would have probably given that called a catchable if he wasn't held up like that. And yeah, so that was a bad call. Replay assist is supposed to come from New York. Yeah, so it does come from the league office in real time. So yeah, I don't think last night was replay assist, but the Njoku play, that was replay assist, and they got that one wrong. So I'm sure they're going to get it wrong occasionally. I think sometimes they're trying to rush it. Like that one felt rushed. The Njoku one, it was like in a split second they had changed the call. The ball was spotted, and you're standing there going, "Wait a minute! I just looked at it again, and it looks like a catch, right?" Like so. But outside of that one instance, I think it's a good thing for the game. As long as they aren't interfering in calls that are on the officials, right? Like judgment calls, like pass interference and things like that. As if you're spotting the ball, if you're calling somebody out of bounds, yeah, you're right. Yeah, they have to wait for the TV angles, but it does save challenges that you shouldn't have to use on stupid stuff like that. Like I already talked about, spotting the ball is a big thing because they miss spots all the time. I'm always like, that's a terrible spot. And then this year, I've noticed that they get corrected much faster. Good job by Benjamin Allbright. He's a smart guy. He knows his stuff. I saw your comments. World's fastest. Yeah, Russell is a douche for sure, and he can't wait to get him in 2 more weeks. Yeah, love giving him the L on Thursday night. But yeah, and it's interesting, when you look at the Broncos, they have, and I didn't realize how much until he went over their schedule. They've kind of squeaked by a lot of their wins when you look at their schedule. Were against undermanned teams that were banged up and games that they just barely squeaked out. Let's see. Let's look at their wins this year. If I can get a better version of the schedule. But yeah, and as he was pointing out, they've kind of gotten lucky a little bit this year. Let's see if we can bring this baby up. Yeah, they have not been dominant but effective is exactly right. What am I doing for Thanksgiving? I'm gonna go over to my folks' place with my family and eat. What are you doing for Thanksgiving? Hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. It's one of my favorite holidays. Not a turkey guy though. I am a fan of the turkey whole shot, the turkey whole shot, but not so much on the turkey for dinner. I'd rather have ham, to be honest. Call me crazy. Hope you guys have a good one too. All right, so can we see this yet? No, we can't. All right, let's bring it up. Let's do this. All right, so their schedule, week 1, lost to Seattle in Seattle, 20-6, and so this is Knicks' first few games. Loss at Pittsburgh, or pardon me, at home to Pittsburgh, and then as he mentioned, Ben mentioned in the interview, they went to Tampa Bay, and this is right after they lost. Tampa lost all their wide receivers, so they were down Mike Evans, Godwin, and a number of other players, and they got kind of a nice win there. Then they beat the Jets by 1. I think maybe on a missed field goal, he said there. They stomped on the Raiders. Lost to the Chargers at home. Beat New Orleans in the Superdome on Thursday night. Remember that game. And then Panthers win. I mean, these wins aren't. I think that was his point. Is these wins aren't great, right? So you beat a depleted Tampa Bay team, a bad Jets team, a bad Raiders team, a not great Saints team, a bad Panthers team, lost to the Ravens, lost to the Chiefs. Should have beat the Chiefs, though. And then did beat a good Falcons are good. Beat the Falcons, came back, beat the Raiders again. So they're 7-5 to host the Browns. So yeah, that's how they get there. Yeah. Love Lamb. Oh, you guys talking Lamb. Watching replays of the OBR. I love it. That's the way. It's the way you should do it, James. Oh, I saw your question during the interview. Yeah, there was nothing in particular I was asking about Jerry Jeudy. Just, I mean, they traded him away, right? So, and there was some buzz around, why they would do that. His production wasn't tremendous there, but I was just trying to get, if he knew of any inside knowledge. He is an insider, Ben is, about Judy's departure from there, or if he had done anything off the field that had rubbed anything the wrong way. I was just fishing, nothing in particular. As somebody I think explained in here earlier. So, yeah. Knicks, what they've done with Knicks has been incredible. Despite the wins on the schedule make them look somewhat fraudulent, as you guys pointed out. But they are a fundamental team, right? And they play complementary football. They've got a very, very good defense. So Nick Benito with 10 sacks. Zach Allen going to bring pressure. Vance Joseph will dial up 5-6-man pressures to come at Jameis. And even Ben was as bold to predict 2 interceptions from our guy Jameis. So if he can avoid that, on Monday night. The Browns' game plan should be, in my opinion, against this defense, should be heavy personnel related. You're going to have to help Affetti. Conklin did a tremendous job against the Steelers. He looks healthy, so protect the left side. Give Jameis enough time to throw when you can, and you're going to have to get a little bit of a run game going, although it's going to be awfully tough with the personnel that they have. But they have done, by drafting well, what the Browns are going to have to do over the next couple of years, and that's hit on some players that can contribute right away because of your financial situation. Now, that's not to say the Browns can't go out and sign players, because they did the same thing. They went out and signed a lineman. They have the 8th best offensive line in the NFL right now. They went out and signed a lineman and drafted another one and put together a line. The Browns should probably approach that the same way in the offseason, probably maybe sign somebody and draft somebody else to try to course correct their offensive line issues that we've seen this season. What the Browns decide to do at quarterback should be intriguing. He is a great fit. World's fastest. That's why I asked him about them identifying nicks early in the process for Peyton. He identified the guy that fits exactly what you want. And he was able to make this transition into a very effective, efficient rookie quarterback in just his first year. And if there's somebody that's like familiar in that, it's kind of Stefanski, right? With things he's done with quarterbacks. So when they do choose their quarterback, not saying it will be this year, because it may not be, right? Like it may be Jameis, or it may be Sam Darnold, or it might be Kirk Cousins. I don't know who it's going to be, right? Next year. I just know it's not going to be Deshaun. And so whoever they decide to move forward with, and I hope it's Jameis, if he can continue to play well, when they do decide to select their quarterback of the future, it needs to be somebody that fits what you want to do, or you change to fit what they do best. That will, be another challenge for Stefanski. But if you find, like in this instance, where Nick's fits exactly what they want to do in their timing-based offense, look at the results that they've been able to achieve with him. So Chris calling 37-16 Browns. That would be tremendous. That would be tremendous, right? Browns had a tough time in Denver for a long time. Should have won last year there. I feel like, but would be amazing to get a win. Primetime games are so much fun. Monday night, if you're going to pick a week to have a game in prime time, I think this is a good week for that, because of the schedules that will conflict for so many people out there. Tomorrow's a travel day, even though I got to work. Travel day Thursday on Thanksgiving, people traveling on Friday. People staying the weekend at family and friends, flying all over the country, people coming home, leaving. It's a mad dash for the next few days for a lot of people. Why Mike is not here tonight. In Browns get a Monday night game, which is cool. Everybody should be home by Monday night to watch it, right? They seem to perform pretty well in primetime. They get up for these primetime games. So this should be another one coming off of Thursday night's effort where they should get up. I am a little bit worried about, as I mentioned to Ben, the defense again. The defense played tremendous on Thursday, but for the most part, but I get a little worried about what Sean Payton had a really good plan for the Browns last year, and it's out there on tape what it takes to beat Schwartz's defense. So, Ben pointed out that Nix has struggled against man-to-man. That bodes well for the Browns. They love to play their man-to-man. But their solid offensive line could slow pressure and force the Browns to blitz, take a guy out of coverage. Then things start to get tricky. And that's what they're kind of hoping for. So it'll be a little bit of a chess match there. And if they have to, can the Browns adjust with the misdirection, the bootlegs, Nick's using his legs, things like that worry me a little bit. Because, they kind of had the plan last year, and Russ was good enough to execute, just getting the ball out to Hots and stuff like that. So I think that Knicks will be able to do the same thing. So got to come ready with that adjustment in place. If I'm Jim Schwartz, you got to be ready for understand who your opponent is, right? Your opponent, in this case, if you're Jim Schwartz, is Sean Payton, and he is a very smart offensive mind who will have a plan of attack ready to go. I agree with Chris, but I've got 24-13 Browns, says Chef. You guys like the Browns this week, baby. I like it. Let's go. Fantastic stuff. So listen, Mike actually will be on tonight. Couple picks. Love it, Chris. Nick's with a couple picks. That rhymes. Bo Nix with a couple picks. Love that. Have they ever played on Turkey Day? Not to my recollection, Zook. I know they played on Christmas. Wasn't the Packers game on Christmas a couple years ago? They should have won. But not Turkey Day, because the games on Thanksgiving are Cowboys and Lions every year, Green Bay, something like that. And they, I believe there's 3 games on Thursday. 3 games, pretty sure. So, let's check. Thursday. Oh, I can do this easier than that. What are you doing, Brad? Let's take a look for the NFL schedule. Thursday at 12:30, Detroit and Chicago. At 4:30, the Giants at Dallas in the inmate game of the week. And then Miami at Green Bay. So, yeah, not great games. Chicago, Detroit's interesting. Miami, Green Bay, okay. I can deal with that. I can at least bet on it, right? And then, okay, so there you go. Chef proving me wrong. Played on Thanksgiving in 1989. Good man. Good man. I did not know that. Who did they play? Lions? GLC style? Great Lakes Classic? Unsure. Okay. Hey, you guys are great. Thank you for tuning in, listening to the breakdown on the game with Ben. I will be back tomorrow night with, you know him, you love him, Pete Smith, for the React. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. Tell a friend to get over to the OBR YouTube channel. They lost to the Lions. Yeah, 10-13. The Great Lakes Classic for real. Good stuff. The GLC, which is no more. Instead, they like to send us out to Seattle for preseason games. Still ridiculous. And play them at 10 o'clock local time. Absurd. You guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. But I'll see you tomorrow night if you guys want to come pop back for the react like you should. Me and Pete will be here reacting to all of the fun stuff from Thursday night and looking forward to Monday night. Fun part of the schedule for the Browns here as they can play spoiler and they get their prime time. Winning a prime time like that got a lot of shine for the Browns these past few days. So good stuff. You guys all have a fantastic evening. If you're traveling, stay safe and enjoy this time with your loved ones. Hit like, hit subscribe, keep it locked at the OBR. See you tomorrow night for the react. Thanks for watching the Doghouse, and thanks again to Ben Allbright. Good night.